if you say, well, what is the, what were the sort of those challenges that we had to face and that we did succeed with, then I think that the most important was changing the site into one of not just a sort of muddle of buildings, but one into where separate buildings were discernible, and you could actually, and you walk around the site now, it's quite clear there's a line of buildings on New Bond Street which are all reconstituted from their elevations. There's a new office building above the station, there's a grade 2-star building next to it, and then between all of those there is a public realm which very clearly crosses the site, allowing you to get from New Bond Street to Hanover Square. So I think if you want the way around the muddle was to separate out the different uses into different buildings, and that was generated by what was actually there, what was left there.
That's great. I mean, I think to be able to pull together, especially in the West End, something that truly is a destination that has the public realm that you've managed to bring into this design, that I think, although we've touched on the environmental impact and the embodied carbon, we're drawing upon the fact that this building, even though designed many years ago, is definitely fit for what future occupiers are looking for, and certainly those of the now. I think later this year, you mentioned we've got the opening of Crossrail, which you've had to sort of lead you in this instance. How do you think that when Crossrail opens, how do you think people are going to sort of appreciate the space when they interact with it for the first time?
That's a very interesting question, and I've been there when Crossrail isn't open, and it's quiet and it's pleasant, and actually during the day, people wander through. It's interesting that people are using the square a lot more than they ever used to. I think that's because the landscape's been improved and the access, all the traffic's been taken away from the west side of the square, and again that's down to our client GPE working with a really interesting consultancy called Publica and with Westminster Council. So it's already changed. When Crossrail starts, Elizabeth Line, it's just going to be, at certain times it will be just jumping with people, which will be great. And I hope that all the provisions we've made at ground floor, for permeability will mean that you're not sort of jostling with people, but it's actually a very pleasant place to be. And there'll be close to a dozen shops and cafes and florists and even a wedding shop if you're thinking of getting married.